brightest people I know that are young producers are really smart. They get involved in the music industry and they take second jobs that keep them really close to the music industry, such as working in a recording studio, working in the publishing arm of a label, or working with a major, working in some division of the record label. So they're constantly close to the music industry. They feel like they're still a part of the music industry and they're still working their career on the side. And I have all the compassion in the world today for young up-and-coming songwriters, producers, because it's never been harder to break in. Never been harder. Because of the structure of how it all works. And now we can't go out and perform live because of the COVID virus. So it's tragic, devastating.
So along those lines, have you seen people within the industry that you may know during the last few weeks kind of change their model in terms of maybe
yeah.
really seriously stay in the studio, create some good music?
Everyone I know, everyone that I know performs live is changing their entire models right now. But you know what's really interesting because of that? It's like I've seen an uptick. So when I look at my catalog and how it's performed over the last week, I've seen a 5 to 10% overall increase. Because everyone's at home, they're streaming music, you know. All my friends that are performing live, they're scrambling. They're desperately scrambling. Not only are they looking for relief with Norris's Music Cares, or some of the PROs are releasing kind of music relief programs, and also Netflix is dedicating $100 million towards artist relief. They're looking towards those programs to help them out, but they're also completely changing their model about how they're going to set up the future of their music career in the short term, with the hopes that they can reset and get back to normal business. But then again, I don't know how any of that really fixes anything, because you have to build an extensive body of work the way the music industry is set up right now to make a good passive income on royalties.
And with the act that you mentioned, and so the reason I'm kind of trying to dive deep, because as you well know, we've talked about offline that I figured out that like really my calling is to work in music supervision and to help artists and also people within Hollywood, you know, link up with good musicians and artists. And that just feels like I should have come to this light bulb moment 20 years ago, but it happened. So knowing, and so one with my last questions about changing the model with basically what's going on with everybody not being able to tour right now, and also Hollywood being on a standstill of production shut down 3 or 4 weeks ago. A lot of studios are shut down. Yeah. Going forward, do you think that people will be more astute and understand that maybe they should care about the income that they would be able in their publishing and their music rights going forward?
Yes. So not to interrupt, sorry. So a lot of young producers, especially with there's a different structure with, for example, dance labels that have set forth, and it's called the option deal, where, you know, some of the larger labels that have a lot of penetration into the marketplace will offer a deal, and it's track by track, and it's if we reject it, then you can take the track elsewhere. If we accept it, then it's out on the label. But when you take that deal, it's what's called a standardized deal. There's no negotiating. It's like signing a deal with Verizon's cell phone. You know, it's not like you're going to negotiate the terms very much. You know, it is what it is. So, and these standardized deals basically take the master rights 100% in perpetuity, and they also take a good majority of your publishing. And I'm sorry, but yeah, okay, that makes sense if you're in the fame game and you're looking to climb the ladder and take advantage of the label ops and playlists and the image and the bragging rights, but it doesn't make you any money. It does not make you any money. Those deals are notoriously horrible, and they're very much so structured for the label brand, and not particularly the artist. So when I was starting out in the 90s, I learned fast, because the way the music industry was then, that having master rights ownership and having a majority of publishing rights ownership was the way to make a living and to have sustainable income. And actually, I would digress. I actually had great mentors that taught me that. So one of those mentors was Harvey Cooper, who came out of 20th Century Fox Music, who came out of Curb Records. He signed a lot of major acts, and that guy taught me exactly what to do.
So I guess my confusion sometimes is when I see artists and I know they have the capability of producing music really well. Perhaps maybe they did 10, 15 years ago, but because the structure has been, I got to tour, I got to do 3, specifically in the dance music industry. Maybe I should change it to that, because a lot of pop and stuff, they have months off. But specifically in the dance music, in trance music, you see DJs that we've talked about that just don't stop touring, except for like now because everybody has. But my question, I understand. I understand the addiction to being paid $100,000 a gig, but at the end of the day, when your gigs, I was having this conversation because a lot of us in dance music have favorite DJs, have people we see multiple times a year, and specifically, like for instance, if Miami Music Week wasn't canceled, that's a perfect example of being able to see the same artist within a couple days of each other multiple times because everybody's playing at each other's gigs.
Yeah.
You can I've noticed in the last couple of years, because I've been in it, that even these people that I really respect that have done great jobs, they tend to just kind of phone it in, and you kind of feel like every set's almost the same structure because they're relying on the people who come to their gigs to be inebriated in some way. But there's some of us that are sober and we remember what track and the orders they play it in. So what I've noticed in the last few weeks with people going live online and doing DJs on Twitch or whatever is that people are breaking out their vinyl records. They're breaking out stuff that you can tell they love to play that they never get to play in the current aspect.
They're going deeper because they can.
Yeah. Do you think that'll continue, or do you think we'll go back to, well, this is what's giving me my $100,000 paycheck, so, or the promoter is telling them what to play as opposed to what they want to play? Do you think that's going to change for the better?
I can't, I'm not a touring artist. I have Limelight, which does trance works. I enjoy trance. I've always been a master trance fan. I will always keep producing trance. And I'd always have trance remixes from my original Nicholas Gunn ambient works. But it's not, as a producer, I find the genre very limiting. Only because there's only so much you can do. There's just only so much you can do. Because the support mechanisms, the touring, the promoters, the clubs, they all kind of fit within a cubicle. And I think that also speaks to the kind of sets and the experience you're having where there's a lot of repetition. I think, there's expectation from the club, there's expectation from the promoter, I think there's expectation from the label, and I think the artist also knows what works. I mean, there's great producers and DJs like John Digweed who can do a 4-hour set and read the crowd, right? And change his set on the fly. Those guys are like masters of their craft, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. But then there is the highly commercial pre-planned set that rarely deviates because it follows a course. It follows, they're promoting something that is very linear and very direct towards their cause, that the label requests of them, the promoter requests of them, the venue requests of them. It's all kind of centered around a time and a place and for a reason. So that's kind of like on the high commercial side of things, right? Like the guys that are really big, have big singles coming out or big tracks that are well known in the genre. And then you have those cool DJs, man, like I just mentioned, John Digweed, and guys like that will just play for hours and hours and hours and change the set at the last second. I think those guys will never change. Those guys will always pull out the vinyl and do different things, but I don't think you're going to see a change with the way it's been in your experience with that.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because it serves a purpose. And you got to remember, you're a music aficionado. Most of these people in the audience, they like music, But a lot of them are there just to hit on other people. They're there for a singles experience. They're there for a multitude of reasons. Yes, there is a core group of avid music fans, especially highly centralized events like trance and so forth. But if you start getting a little broader, if you can start moving out a little bit into dance pop, a lot of them are there not just for the music, they're there for a more of an experience, right? They're not going to be so centered on, like you said, they're inebriated. Oh, he played the same track twice, I couldn't tell, because they're not really in the moment, right?
That's true.
I mean, I've been to shows where the DJ played the same song 3 times. He was so fucked up.
Yeah.
And no one knew, except for the 5 people in the front who were diehard fans.
That's true. I guess maybe, from my own perspective, and it's funny because I had this experience last year in Miami where I was at Marcus Schultz Open to Close, and the people I was with were, doing their thing. And then they turned to me and they're like, "Oh, this track is so great." And I was like, "Yeah, you played this 2 hours ago." And they were like, "How do you remember that?" And I go, "Because it was 2 hours ago." Like,